Okay. Let us see. Oh, you know what? I totally forgot to mute myself, so you guys can probably hear me. Because, yeah, I forgot to mute my microphone. So, those of you who are already here, if you're here, I'm about to cue myself in on the microphone. And then from there, I am going to get rid of this Ray Smithy starting screen. So give me a second. It's going to be all like clicky and stuff. Today is December 3rd, 2025, and we're streaming blacksmithing. So, all right, now we're going to start the Kamura. Okay, coolies. All right, let's transition here. Hey, Corwin. Hey, Mahalo. Welcome. Hey guys, I'm Ray, and we are streaming blacksmithing. Welcome to the stream. Welcome. So today we are starting a brand new project, and that project is going to be a raising hammer. Now, some of you may know, a lot of you may know, that Knott's hubby made me this lovely raising hammer out of Damascus steel. It is a combination of 1095 and 15 and 20. The 15N, it's a letter N, not the word and. 15N20, which means there is, it's the carbon versus nickel content within this steel. It makes a lovely contrast, and we've kind of taken a look at this thing over the last couple of weeks. You've even seen me use it a little bit while we were making the jingle bell on Monday and Friday's streams. So I'm going to make my own version of this, and we'll see how close and how good I can make mine in comparison. So the first thing I have done today is I cut off this lovely chunk of 4140. This guy is probably a little bit over a pound of stock. Definitely lighter than this guy. Also probably lighter than this guy, right? So under 2 pounds of 4140, and we are going to attempt to make a hammer out of that. We wanted it to give ourselves a little bit of extra steel that we can grind away or lose to scale in this process. So we start a little bit bigger than the end product that we'd like. Evening. The camera angle is new, is it? Hey, Corwin. Hey, Sandwich. Is it really close? Is that what's happening? It is a little bit closer, maybe. Or is it gauzy? It looks a little gauzy. No, it's not. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, we are going to take this and we're going to heat it up and turn it into a hammer. The first thing that we're going to do, though, is turn this into a square profile chunk of steel. Right now it's, like a round disc, slightly wider than a hockey puck. But yeah, so we're gonna see what we can do here. So first things first, we're gonna start up the forge. Hey, Lexi. Welcome. There we go. Let's get some warmth in here today. Lovely. Alrighty. So, let me put my headphones on so I can hear myself. Alright, is that all I need? I think so. Alright, so did you wrap up the Jingle Bell project? I did. I'm going to put this steel in the forge and then we'll take a look at the Jingle Bell. So this right here is the first jingle bell that we did, and this is our second jingle bell. It's a little bit more bulbous, and I think the ad is about to start, so we'll talk a little bit more about this after that ad is done. But yeah, so I did actually wrap up the Jingle Bell project. So today it's kind of on the cooler side, and so I'm really excited that we've got, you know, the forge going so I can like heat things up. I don't actually have my heater this year. Last year when we were streaming in the cold like this, I had a heater that I was able to use, and unfortunately that heater did not last the winter. So towards the end of the year we brought it in the house, and because our furnace was acting up, and I did not actually swap my wide and close camera. I'm not entirely sure why the cameras are funny. I don't know. I haven't really changed it at all. It doesn't look weird to me, but it does look a little bit closer. So yeah, so unfortunately, I've got a few things I gotta do this weekend to get ready for the cold. The first thing I want to do is I want to see about getting a heater in here. Because I can't always have the forge on when I'm doing things out here. I don't know. Maybe the power outage did something. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, maybe, but like, that's really unlikely, to be honest. Because I've actually like unplugged the camera before I turned it off, and it never changed any of the settings. So I don't know. I'll take a look at it after the stream. I think we're just gonna be on this camera for a little bit, or you know, this view. I don't think we're actually missing all that much. But if you going below 0 degrees Fahrenheit today, it's no joke. You're making me cold. I mean, it's not too bad. According to Google, what is the temperature today? Right now, it's 36 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm cold because I'm uncomfortable if it's under 77 degrees. But it's not that cold here. It's not bad, it's just different. Okay, well, I will have the butler take a look at it to see if there are any like settings that got reset during the power outage. But yeah, you can see the press, you can see the forge. I think I moved the camera forward a little bit. It's supposed to be negative temps day here tomorrow. Ooh, that stinks. See, tomorrow is actually, it's either today or tomorrow, we're supposed to reach 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's actually pretty warm for this time of year. So, you know, I think it actually is today that it's supposed to get to 40. So a little bit later on, it'll get somewhat warmer. I'm not that cold, you know. I do have some layers. You know, I've got the flannel with the lovely wool lining inside. And then I also have a sweatshirt. But I'm not too bad. Want to trade? No, definitely not. Like I said, I'm uncomfortable if it is any lower than 77 degrees. So yeah. I like our warmth. So, I did want to actually like talk a little bit more about these bells, right? So it's a little bit more bulbous, I think. I think this turned out a little bit better than this one did. We started with, this one seems a little bit more flat on the top. And this one just seems a little bit more rounded. So I did finish this bell. It didn't take me that much longer than the rest of the stream, or like then, you know, the stream cut out. But yeah, so I didn't actually, or like what on Monday when I lost power, I only lost power for about 30 seconds, right? But I had to, or like the fast internet, it was down for a little bit longer. I needed to actually reset it. And so I really didn't want to have you guys wait for me to reset the internet and, you know, go through its whole cycle, because it takes about 5 minutes to recycle. And so we're here today. We're going to keep on keeping on. But yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with how this turned out. You can kind of hear there is a clacker inside of here, and there's one in here as well. I think this one actually has a little bit higher pitch than this one does. Let's see if, whoops, the clacker fell out. Hurrah. I don't know where it fell out. Did it fall out from the bottom? That's weird. Oh, I think it fell out from this little corner. There it goes. It's back in now. We're good. So, let's see. Can I get this out in here? Maybe, maybe not. I was gonna try and put the bell, or this bell in here so that I could, like, you know, shake it a little bit. Let's see if it'll work. Like that. No, it doesn't want to. So, yeah, I like this one a little bit better. So I will be skipping the line a little bit on our YouTube videos. We're going to have the Bell project come out on, well, there goes that, on Christmas Eve. So it's kind of holiday, like, relevant, I guess. All right. So yeah, it rings. It's nice. I like it. So today we are going to continue working, well, not continue, we're going to start working on our hammer. So I hope that's all right. But I wanted to get moving on the hammer project. So I cut the steel today, and I think I'm pretty excited about this. We have already done a hammer. I wasn't entirely excited about what our hammer looked like, the one that we made together. But this was it wasn't terrible for the first hammer I've ever made. So the handle's super big for the head. It's about a 2-pound hammer. But the handle is like a giant hammer, or like handle. So, yeah. All those alpine skiers at the Olympics should use those jingle bells, should they? They're a little on the heavier side, so, you know, you got the speed, you want to, like, reduce your weight, streamline as best as possible, so they probably wouldn't actually want that. So another thing that I really wanted to talk to you about, we haven't really gone over our housekeeping yet today. So a couple things in as far as housekeeping. Today's video, because it's Wednesday, our YouTube video, the long form video, came out at 10 a.m. and that is an interview with Paul Kennedy. He is the vice president of the IBA, which is the Indiana Blacksmith Association. And he was staying in the Brazil Nut Grove, which is the big group of blacksmiths that were blacksmithing all night. So I got a chance to chat with him, and he had a lot of really good advice for brand new blacksmiths. So you can take a look at that on YouTube. The link to that just popped up, and I'm pretty excited about that video. So we have 2 more quad state videos left, We have one on a charitable organization that I talked to. And then we have my travel video where it's me traveling and my impressions of Quad State. So 2 more videos from Quad State left. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is Twitch has brought out their, I guess, year in review, like the 2025 overviews or whatever. So I was super excited to take a look and see, how we did this year. This was my first year of streaming. I started in November of last year. So we've been streaming for just over a year. And so it kind of gave us an overview of how many hours we streamed and how many followers we've gained and how many subscriptions and everything. Well, it turns out that we are in the top 20% of streamers on the platform, which I think that's pretty good for the first year of streaming. And then the other thing is we are in the top 10% of our category, which is makers and crafters. So that's super exciting. I'm so happy that, we have grown that much in only a year. So yeah, I'm super excited. Thank you guys so much for, supporting me and pushing me towards the top. But yeah, I know that our category is a little on the smaller side, but I'm still super impressed by how high we were able to get and how much that we've grown in only one single year. So thank you so much. It's all for you, it's all you guys. Without your support, I would still be streaming to nobody. So thank you guys so much. Thank you. But yeah, so yay, top 10%. Which category? Viewers in average or growth in viewers? I believe it is viewers in average. I think. I don't know that it really specified per se. I mean, it could be growth in viewers too. I don't know. I guess I didn't look as closely as I should have. But, it's still exciting regardless, So I thank you guys, Thank you for your continued support. So, I mean, I can look it up again, and I can post on the Discord like the answer to that question for you, Sandwich. But yeah, it's exciting. I didn't think that I was gonna be streaming for this long. I thought I was gonna get tired of streaming to nobody after like a month, and here we are, still streaming and still growing. So thank you guys so much. Let me check our steel. We're getting there. Still not hot enough, but we're at a nice orange. Not too bad. We're getting there. So I think I'm going to, I need to plug in the air compressor. I only have a wall outlet over here, and one of the fluorescents is over here, and then also the, I had to plug in the belt, what is it? The bandsaw. It's a band, not a belt. Looks like I sent more than 16,000 chat messages this year on Twitch. That's a lot of chat messages. But I mean, it's great. We have these back and forth conversations, and, people are amazing, and they respond and they talk, So I'm not surprised. 16,000 seems pretty reasonable when you're watching streams almost every day, So yeah, let's push down the bottle jack. So we'll be ready when the steel gets hot. So I don't think I've asked you guys. Can you guys see the whiteboard with the blue color? I know that it's a little bit hard to see from that far away on my little screen, but I'm not entirely sure if you guys can see them more recent. On this screen, it was about 2,150. That's quite a bit, you know? That's about an eighth of all of the messages that you posted. I mean, I feel honored, you know? But I've been trying to write our project to kind of draw a little picture of what it kind of looks like. The blue shows fine. Now that angle is closer, it's easier to read. Cool. I kind of actually like this angle a little bit. I did push the camera up a little bit, and that may actually be what you're seeing, is I did push up the camera so that it was a little bit closer to like a mid shot, if that makes sense. However, it also means that you guys can't see the anvil from the wide shot. So I might bring the angle down a little bit. 112 hours of your stream for me. Corbin, that's so much. I'm so grateful for all of that time that you put into watching me. I mean, that's like ad revenue for me, as well as, you know, entertainment and fellowship, and yeah. The bigger the better when writing on the board. That makes sense. I will try to remember to write bigger. Alright, that should be good. It's made for good friendship. Yeah. I'm glad, part of the reason why I keep streaming is because I've made friendships and I've connected other people within the community together, and, you know, community is so important, especially now, in today's day and age, you know. With the internet, I feel like people are constantly just, alone and separate, and I kind of feel like coming together is incredibly important, and having people to talk to and be friends with. So I'm really glad, you know. All right, we're starting to get there. Whew. Fingers are a little bit cold. There is a little bit of air leakage that comes out from some of the areas by the bottle jack, and so, you know, blowing on my fingers, it makes it a little bit cold. Not too bad though, not too bad. Not like last year when we were out here in 0 Fahrenheit. All right, so once the air compressor recharges, I'm probably going to do our cooking. I think I am gonna turn the camera just a little bit lower. Maybe. Slowly see if I can just the top. That should be good. Hopefully. Honestly, I'm pretty sure that the camera changed on, I think it would have been Friday, because I had the butler come out here to help me set up all of the cameras. And I think the butler pushed the wide forward because I was talking about how I wanted to do a little bit more of a mid shot. And yeah, okay, is my head too close to the top of the frame? I usually like to give myself a little bit more on the top of the frame, because if I get any closer, it's going to cut off the top of my head, and that's going to be a little bit weird. So I don't know. I'm almost sure that was the angle, or the angle was wider on Monday. I mean, it might also be that I was moving around some of my pieces of equipment the other day while I was welding I was doing a little bit of welding, and I did move the camera and a little, like that tripod a little bit, so maybe I moved it forward. So, I don't know. I don't think it's a bad angle, as long as I don't go like way in forward, because then, my head gets cut off. It's always awkward when your head's cut off in the frame, All right, let's do our first heat. Gotta put those little sticker cues on the floor like The Price is Right, right? All right, there we go. I used to actually have stickers that I put on the floor for the tripods so that I would like make sure to put them in the same spot every time. I don't move them anymore, so... Establish our flats. We've got a very rounded disc, and we want to turn that into a square profile. Are you preparing for battle? I am not, actually. I am preparing to, well, I guess maybe you could say that. I'm actually making myself a hammer so that I can create armor. So I guess in all technicality, I am preparing for battle, I'm preparing to make some armor. Hell yeah, may you vanquish your foes. Yes, thank you. So our next major project we just started, that was the very first heat. So I have a disc of 4140 mid-carbon steel, and we're going to turn that into a raising hammer. And this right here is a raising hammer. And this is specifically designed to take sheet metal and put a concave or convex curve in it. So you take flat sheet and curve it, and you can make armor like that, you can make bowls like that, you can make teapots, cups, all kinds of different vessels. So I am making a hammer very similar to this one. And the goal is to make a pauldron. So I haven't decided what pauldron I want to do yet. I was thinking about taking something from pop culture. So I've thought about doing a Mandalorian pauldron from like the Mandalorian show, the Star Wars. And I've also thought about doing Final Fantasy VII and doing Cloud's pauldron. There are a lot of other pop culture like pieces of armor that we could definitely take a look at. That doesn't look like a raising hammer? No? It doesn't? What does it look like to you? I don't know. You're the one that made it, so I mean, you're also probably the one that's going to like, you know, see all of the flaws and stuff in it, or, you know, all of the beauty in it. A block of steel. Hey, it worked beautifully. We've already made some lovely bells with it. You know, we actually did our first course on this piece of copper. It worked gorgeously. I don't know what you're talking about. It works like a raising hammer. It's one of the best ones I've ever used. Definitely the prettiest one I've ever used. Hey Yankee, welcome to the stream. Welcome, welcome. Hammer! Oh, I meant the one in the forge. Yes, that one is definitely just a block of steel so far. So yes, we are, I mean, that was our very first heat, so. From what I've learned from Curie, raising should be a silversmithing technique. Yes, raising is a silversmithing technique. And I learned it while I was studying silversmithing in college. I've made all kinds of lovely vessels in sterling silver, in copper, in brass, and bronze. But we are going to take those techniques and apply them to steel. Steel does not move nearly as well as like non-ferrous metals. Non-ferrous metals have a much higher ductability. They move and stretch a lot better than steel does. When you're using steel, it tends to want to spring back a little bit, and so it just doesn't want to round as much. That's part of the reason why a lot of armor is made in multiple pieces. So like if you've ever seen a helmet be made, sometimes they make half and half of the bucket on the top. Sometimes they make just the bucket and then, you know, use a separate sheet for like the sides. So there's a lot of different techniques that you can do. Hey, Blued Red Metal, welcome, welcome. Nuh-uh, say it right. Say it like you're running up to an approaching armor on Stamford Bridge and you need a friend to toss you your main weapon. Toss me a hammer. So yes, yeah, we are making a hammer so that we can make some armor. Close enough. All right, we have an ad that just started. So once that ad is over, we are going to continue squaring off our piece of steel. Right now, it's like a round block of steel. I want to make it into a square block of steel. All right. Though ads are the worst. I would totally turn off the ads if it wasn't a source of revenue, and I need all the revenue I can get, you know, in today's society. My groceries keep going up in price, so, you know, I need all of the little pennies that I got, so, you know, I can't turn off the ads, but I do find them a little bit awkward. Maybe one day after I get some more corporate sponsorships, I'll turn off the ads. That way, you guys don't have to worry about them. Because I really want corporate sponsors. I don't want you guys to have to donate or pay to watch my stream. I want corporate donors. Evening, Holy Zoinks. Welcome, welcome. I forgot to update my ending credit screen to thank you guys for your sponsorship. So I need to do that. I will have that done by Friday, I promise. I will put that as a priority thing to do tonight, maybe tomorrow. But hello, welcome in. All right, let's do another heat, actually. I don't know why I'm acting a little scatterbrained. I think it's the cold. I'm gonna blame it on the cold. As it gets warmed up, hopefully my brain will get warmed up too. Somewhere we've got a little bit of a flat on the top and bottom. That's pretty exciting. I do want to kind of stretch this wide this direction and this direction, or one or the other side of it. Doesn't really matter, but the first few heats are going to be a little bit on the shorter side. We're kind of processing the steel a little bit. Flannel sponsor seems really nice right about now. It definitely does. It's so warm. I like it. I sort of understand some of the things you go through making curved shapes with that sheet metal. I like to put together paper models. Many times the flat cardstock pieces need to be shaped into curved pieces to fit on the model. Yes. So what we're at, there are two processes that you can use in order to make a concave shape with a piece of sheet metal, right? The first one is called sinking, and that is the process of taking your sheet and hammering it into something, right? This is usually a process that a lot of people will use in the very beginning to, go from the flat sheet into a really shallow curve. So you would actually hammer on the inside of your vessel, and you could use something that's loose, like this sandbag, or something more rigid, like a rounded bowl, a concave shape, like a swage block. I have one over there. We were using it on Monday and Friday. But that is a process called sinking, right? That is a process that stretches the material. It's very similar to how the material stretches and thins out during the process of tapering, which is hammering the piece of steel and making it longer and thinner, right? The second process that you can use to create a curve is called raising. And that is where you take a stake, kind of like this guy, and you put your material on top of the stake, and then you hammer on the outside of your curve and squish the material into the airspace between the material and the stake. And that process is kind of like when you're folding pieces of sheet, like paper. You know, a lot of times when people are making paper, like flat paper, into curves, they're kind of folding that material and making kind of like pleats or crinkles. So you're kind of doing that process a little bit with the sheet steel, but it's an upsetting process, which is you are shrinking the metal and building up that material. So it gets thicker as you go during the raising process. So what you really want to do is a combination of raising and sinking so that you can create a even thickness the whole way through. But yeah. And upsetting is the process of hammering steel back in on itself. It's a blacksmithing term. So you can do that with steel and with non-ferrous metal. With non-ferrous metal, you get the advantage that you can do it cold. So you can hold it with your fingers. And then as that material gets rigid, you anneal that. So you heat it up and quench it, cool it off, and it'll soften that material. Now, with steel, you have to do the process hot. So it's kind of a little bit different, but non-ferrous moves a lot easier while it's cold. And then the ferrous material, it doesn't want to move at all when it's cold, really. Alrighty, how we doing in there? We're getting there. Getting pretty warm. So I hope you understood that explanation a little bit. Sometimes I get a little bit into my head and like I'll skip words and stuff because I this thing where I feel like people can read my mind a little bit. I had to weld a ball to a post to make a quick stake to make a bell on Sunday. I actually got to watch your stream a little bit. I wasn't able to like type in your stream because I was in the middle of doing other stuff. I was problem solving some issues that I was having with a game download. But I was able to watch it, and your bell looked really cool. I think your bell is better than my bells, but I think, I think that's all right. Yeah, I've seen videos of a place in Mexico where they hammer bowls out of copper sheets. Yeah, it's that same process, and it's technically called, or like the discipline is technically called silversmithing because the people that were, that named it primarily used silver as their medium of choice. Hey Jack, welcome to the stream. They start with copper discs and end up with some nice forms. They do, they really do. There's the other process of chasing and repose that I really want to do a little bit of at a later date. And that actually takes a couple other tools that we'll definitely be making at some point in the future. Most of those are like chisels and that sort of thing. Some of them have sharp points, some of them have rounded points. But you use a hammer and it's kind of like, you chisel out little shapes. And you can create some lovely relief from sheet. And that is another thing that I was very passionate about when I was in college. So I would love to take some of that and show it to you guys as well. I cut off the hook on the bottom of the clacker and it rang better. I think that... So I had a bell that was on my door, like a doorbell or whatever. And there was a hook on the bottom of that clacker and it didn't work very well with the hook either. And I think that the reason that it's there, like the hook is supposed to, or like they make it that way, is so that you can take a piece of string and tie it there, and so then you can use the string to ring the bell. But, you know, if it's not, I don't know, I don't think the bell rings as true with that on there. So, I don't know. All right, let's do another heat. Get some nice flats. We don't have very sharp corners, but we definitely have more of a rectangular form. Getting rid of a little bit of the scale that's developing on here. And back in the heat. Oh, well, now I have a December iron in the hat item. That's cool. Iron in the hat is so much fun. It's a good way to make money for your blacksmithing organization or any organization, you know, as long as you get your items donated. So yeah, I mean, my bells, I'm okay with them. I think they're all right for the first couple of bells that I need. But I'm also like, you can't really master a project until you've done like 100 of them, you know? So they're all right for my first couple, but if I really want to get good at them and get good bells, I need to put that time and effort in. I always recommend, though I don't myself, recommend, or like, so I always recommend that new blacksmiths make 100 of each project that they're going to do, right? So 100 leaves, 100 bottle openers, 100 hooks, right? I myself don't do that. It's kind of like a do as I say, not as I do thing, because I have to entertain you guys, you know? It's less fun if I always do the same project, you know? But, you know, you guys who aren't streaming have the option to, you know, do 100 leaves, 100 hooks, 100 bottle openers, 100 nails. Although the nails, I kind of feel like you want to do 100 every day, maybe, as a warm-up. I mean, we were able to do 25 really bad ones in a whole stream. So I think that if you got really good at them, you could totally do 100 nails a day as a warm-up. And nails, actually, they're pretty good as far as, like, things to sell, you know? Hey, Chris, welcome to the stream. Welcome, welcome. So yeah, like I said, I always recommend that people do that, but I don't do it myself because, you know, I feel like I need to entertain you guys. Well, I'm off to work, actually, have stuff to do. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us as long as you have. I hope you have a great rest of your day at work. All right. let's see. So as we continue to draw this material out, it's going to start getting thicker on the sides. I want to eventually like take that hockey puck, you know, the flats, and I do want to flatten those out a little bit too, but I need to get a little bit further before I do that. Buckets of nails were a Smith's steady income back in the day. They were, yeah, definitely. Because I mean, you know, back in the they didn't have manufacturing like we do now. So all of the people that were building houses or, you know, needed nails for fixing things, for, you know, building carts and all the things that you need nails for, they had to find a blacksmith to sell them. So and nails still sell. You know, you've got like your high-end architects who want, you know, fancy nails, and people who are restoring old buildings need nails, like hand blacksmith ones. I mean, you can still sell them. You know, I think nails, 100 of them would make a really good warm-up, especially for a new blacksmith. Screws are better. Well, yes, screws are better. You know, because they hold in better, like they hold pieces of wood together better, and they also are less likely to split your wood. However, you know, it's harder to make a screw than it is to make a nail. Depends on the function. Yeah, it kind of does. And I mean, you could, in theory, turn your nails that you've made into screws by tapping them, you know? You got your die and tap set. I oftentimes will create my own screws, and like in the end of tangs for the rapiers that I've made. I also was making fixtures for bathroom stuff, so like towel holders and things like that, so I'd use taps and dies that way. So you can fabricate screws in a blacksmith shop. They're just not as fancy and not as nice as the ones that you can buy from, you know, a manufacturer or from a, I don't know, a machinist, I guess. I guess that's why people hundreds of years ago would burn down the building when moving on and sift through the ashes for nails, because the nails were a needed resource. I mean, they are, you know. I will also say that oftentimes a hand blacksmith nail is a little bit stronger than the manufactured ones. You know, they bend less. Home where I was raised was built in the early 1960s over an old smith that was part of a horse ranch back in the 1800s and early 1900s. We were digging up bits of metal shoes, etc. all the time when working in our garden. I'll bet it is so hard to get up all of the bits of steel in a defunct blacksmith shop. I moved from my old shop to this shop many years back, about 7 years, I guess. And I was trying to sweep up all of the scale and stuff, and I just could not get it all up. I'm trying to come up with a joke about 9-inch nails versus screws, but I need more coffee to think that fast, right? Gotta get that brain warmed up, you know? All right, let's do another heat. I am gonna check my camera though, and we are going to change the angle just a bit. There we go. Make sure that we're still in focus, which I figured we were because I didn't move forward or backward. All right. Alrighty. Back in the heat. We're getting there. We're starting to get a rectangular shape. But yeah, we'll probably use a little bit of, or we'll probably primarily be using the press. I will probably come over here to the anvil for a little bit just to flatten things out. But overall, I think we're getting some pretty good results. So I believe that I'm estimating about 6 streams for this hammer. Because we have a lot less material, for 1, to get through. And then for 2, we've actually been getting a little bit quicker when it comes to working with these large pieces of stock. I had estimated 9 streams for the steak that we were making, and it only took us 6, I think. Yeah, 6. So I'm anticipating about 6 streams for this hammer because there's a little bit more finesse that I need to do. But, you know, maybe it'll take less. We'll see. Right now, we're primarily processing the steel, turning it into a shape that we can start pushing the hole for the handle into. But yeah, once we get it into a nice rectangular shape, I will put a hole for the handle in, and then we can start making the shape of that hammer. One of the great things about, or I guess the unique things about a raising hammer is that it is a rounded cross peen, right? So you've got like that a round hammer, but it's also that cross section. So you get a lot of movement up and down, and less side to side. But it's also rounded, so it's more of an oval shape that you're getting than a rectangular shape. And same with a side like this, you're getting a wider oval. But with a hammer head like this one, you're going to get a round hammer mark. And this side, you're going to get a rectangular hammer mark. So the oval is going to create more of a rounded shape into the sheet, I guess. It's gonna curve the material. Whoops, I put away the wrong hammer. Goodness. That's an idea. Any of you guys who are blacksmiths, have you ever used a rounded cross peen? So, like, a lot of times, you know, your cross peen is pretty rectangular. Have anybody used, like, you know, a more oval-ish shape to their forging hammer? It'd be interesting to see how that would work. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll add that to my project list towards the bottom, because I don't like doing too many hammers or, you know, too many of the same thing all in a row. I haven't. I think it would be interesting. Like I said, a raising hammer like that, you know, that rectangular rounded hammer, it's going to give you an oval for your hammer mark. Whereas, you know, your typical rounding or forging hammer, it's going to give you a very round, circular hammer blow. And then the back end, you know, your cross peen, it's going to be a lot more rectangular. So it's all different shapes to your hammer blow, but, you know, different shapes do different things, and, you know, you're going to get some interesting results. Might have to try it on a spare. See, you know, that's what I'm like, maybe I should try it. There's got to be a first for something, or, you know, for everything. And I mean, there are a lot of things that are very standard in a blacksmith's kit, you know, and less standard things. So maybe there's a reason why we don't see, you know, an oval-shaped round hammer. But it might work for some really niche things. Let's do another heat. Alright, so we're going to move the camera. So my plan, guys, for my YouTube videos for the next couple of weeks is next week's video is going to be our last in our series about the grill set, and then we have another quad state video, and then the video after that, which is the week of Christmas, I'm going to edit up the bell video, and I'll post that one because it's timely and festive and Christmassy. And then after that, we'll do our very last quad state video, and that's the week of New Year's, so that'll come out on New Year's Eve. And then we're gonna, I will be out of quad state videos, and we're gonna continue working on our project overviews. So I think the project, the first one in January is gonna be our axe. That one's a really big project on my hard drive, and I need to offload a bunch of stuff, and I want to make sure that that one gets uploaded sooner than later. It's taken up about a quarter of my hard drive. It's kind of ridiculous. Jim the Dragonator. Hey Ray, love from Alabama. Welcome to the stream. Hello. Welcome, welcome. So we've got an ad coming up shortly, and once that ad is up, it'll probably be hot enough that we can do our first heat here on the anvil. But that heat's going to be a little bit on the cooler side because the anvil hasn't been warmed up. So it's probably going to be a shorter heat. We'll see what we get, and I might do a couple heats here before we go back over to the press. Alabama. I've been to Alabama one time. The thing that I really remember about Alabama is going into a creek and catching like little newts. They were adorable. When I was a kid, I loved lizards. So like newts and salamanders and little frogs and stuff. Kind of weird, I know, for a girl, but you know. I'm sure there is so much more to Alabama than lizards, though. But I was kind of on the younger side when I went, so you know that's the thing that I remember the most about Alabama. Ooh, ad break. It's starting to get really warm in here. You know, a comfortable level of warmth, I guess. Closer over here, it's really nice and warm, and I really like it. Closer to over here, I have a window cracked, and it's a little on the cooler side. But I want as much ventilation as possible, so I'm finding that cracking the window over there and cracking the door over there is going to give me a nice cross draft, so that I've got enough air to, not worry about carbon monoxide, but it also keeps most of the warmth inside. Reptiles and amphibians are so totally cool, Corwin. I love them. They're adorable. My mom and dad always used to yell at me because I would always catch little frogs and lizards in the yard, and they're like, you can't pick them up. They don't like that. And I'm like, but I know that they do. They love me. That's why they always pee on me. But yes, I used to run around the yard and pick up like little frogs and lizards and stuff. Snakes are my favorite. I don't know that snakes are my favorite. I think my favorite are like lizards. I love little like newts and salamanders. They're my favorite. They're adorable. Like I used to have a pet newt, and it was like a red-eared slider newt. No, that was my turtle. I used to have a turtle too. It was a red-eared slider box turtle, and it used to climb out of its tank all the time because we lived, our backyard butted up to a river, and when I was really little, and so we ended up letting that turtle go. But yeah. Like I said earlier, I'm sure there is more than, newts in Alabama. You'll have to teach me all about Alabama and what there is to see and do and what's great about it, All right, so we're gonna do our first heat here on the anvil. Like I said, I'm really trying to square this up. I want to thin it out and turn it into a rectangle about inch and a half on the short side. There's a Waffle House. I mean, there's Waffle Houses everywhere. At least everywhere in the United States. Not around the world, but in the United States, there are so many Waffle Houses. We're starting to get some rectangles going. Let's get some more heat. Not up there. Really? I swear there were Waffle Houses in the Quad Cities. There was like one. It might have closed down though. It looked like it was about to close down for a really long time. Oh, is that in the South? See, I thought they were everywhere. So I guess I'm mistaken. But I mean, there's all kinds of regional stuff. You know what I miss? I miss Whitey's, and I don't know if Corwin, if you are if there are any Whitey's near you, because they are kind of local to the Quad Cities. But I miss Whitey's ice cream, and I miss Hungry Hobo from that, like, the hometown feel of things. Newts of Alabama sounds like a decent movie title, right? Or a band, the name of a band. I think that's just the QC area, and it probably is. They're kind of on the smaller side. I mean, I know that Whitey's is just really the Quad Cities. They have a few franchises, but not many. There's only a handful in that one little area. Something just shortly dropped with the sound and came back. I apologize for that. It's probably because the receiver is sitting inside of the charger, because I forgot to charge the sound. The Alabama Newts could be a band, but also some sports team. It could. You're the Newts. Although I don't think Newts are very scary, and aren't like sports ball teams supposed to be have intimidating names? Like Tigers, you know, Bears, I get that, right? But Newts, they're kind of like, they're a little on the squishy side. They're adorable, but they're a little on the squishy side. Not quite as squishy as the little tiny tree frogs that used to congregate in the driveway of my grandparents' house. They lived on this farm, and there was just a whole bunch of tree farms that, like, once a year they would like congregate in the yard, and I would pick them up, and I had like shoe boxes full of them. I didn't understand that by confining them in a shoebox I was killing them. And I think my siblings and I probably decimated the population. But for a few years, there were frogs all over the place in the spring. There's the unintimidating browns. I don't know. Hash browns, you know, that's kind of intimidating, right? You know, especially at the Waffle House. I don't know. Maybe. All right, let's do another heat. And there's some NSFW parody with a different spelling. I'll leave it at that. There's a little bit of a area that's like wider. It's not they're not developing into right angles like I want them to. So we're gonna do a little bit on the corners. All right, that's not bad. We need to do a little bit of upsetting on these edges, because I am very much incapable of cutting a straight line, guys. All right, more heat. So I have always had a problem cutting straight lines with bandsaws or with like hacksaws or jeweler saws. I have this like problem where I start straight and I'm going straight, and then I end up veering in one direction or the other. My boss at the jewelry store would always get mad at me because I would leave angles on all of the jewelry stock. And I mean, I was the one that was using it primarily, but every time she pulled it out and there was an angle, she would yell at me. How's the smushing and smushing going? It's going pretty good, actually. As long as it's straighter than it is crooked, you're good, right? You should have seen the line I made yesterday with a jigsaw. So, like, when I'm really trying to get a straight line, what I'll do is I'll clamp a straight edge, and I'll cut along the straight edge. This works really well when you're, like, cutting, you know, plywood or something. So, you know, you get your circular saw, and you have, like, a little slide, right? You got to make sure that you leave enough room for the plate on the circular saw. But, you know, it works. It ends up working. But when I'm freehanding it, I always get an angle. Your boss could take a drink to each crooked line. I think that my boss would have gotten so drunk. I wanted to say, yeah, something a little less nice, but, you know, I try to keep things PG around here. But yes, my boss would have been so drunk so quickly every day because like I said, I cannot cut a straight line to save my life. Now, I will say that if you give me a line that I have to follow, so like if I'm cutting sheet metal with a jeweler saw and I have like an outline to follow, I'm really good at that, right? But if I'm just freehanding a line just like by eye, always angled, always cockeyed. It's awful. Alcohol poisoning? Yes, definitely alcohol poisoning. Like I said, I cannot for the life of me cut a straight line freehand. I have tried so hard throughout the years to learn to do it, and I just cannot. All right, let's do another heat. Straighten out the corner a little bit. Now this would be so much easier if I had a striker, right? All right, I think we got a good rectangle going, so I think that we are now gonna go back over to the press and keep on keeping on. I want to thin this out. We've got a longer side or set of sides here than here, so I think this is gonna be our top and bottom, and these are gonna be our front faces. How long was your power out? Was it a storm that knocked it out? So we were having a heavy snowfall at the time on Monday. My power was out for 30 seconds. However, it would have taken me about 5 to 10 minutes to get my internet back up and running because when it gets knocked out, I always have to reset it, right? And it takes a really long time to like cycle through all of the stupid power for my high-speed internet because right now I am using my high-speed Wi-Fi, and so I would have had to cycle the internet and the power on my modem and then again on the router in order to get my high-speed Wi-Fi up. So I didn't want you guys to have to wait for me, so we're back today. I did actually finish the bell that we were working on. This guy. It's a lot rounder than the other bell, but it's not perfect. I think I would need to do, you know, probably about 98 more to get one I was really happy with. So I'm gonna do a little bit of Scotch Brighting on this to make it a little bit nice and prettier. And then I'll post the video on Christmas Eve. A good scrap source for smaller hammers and top tools are used S cams off trucks. They're about 1045 and inch and a quarter diameter. Way easier than forging down big stock. I'm sure. S cams. I don't know what an S cam is. Let me look it up. Oh, that sucks about the internet, but it's good it wasn't out too long, especially in cold weather. That sucks not having power. Right? So yeah, it was off for about 30 seconds, so it wasn't even bad enough that like I lost heat or anything. It's just I lost stable internet, you know? Alright, where's my Google? So on Monday, I was originally trying to stream S-Cam to Twitch, and what is this? But I decided that I want to run it through OBS, so I have to like figure that out, and I'll use the weekend to do that. An S-cam is a critical component in the air brake system of heavy vehicles like trucks, functioning as a shaft with an S-shaped end that rotates to apply the brakes. Okay. I mean, it looks about the right size. I'll have to take a look. I will at some point in the near future need to do a restock when it comes to steel. So I don't know, maybe I will take a trip to the local scrapyard. Like an axle with a disc-like thing on one end. The ones on our 5-axle trailers were 3 feet long, and every brake job had 10 of them scrapped. So I left a couple hundred at my house when I moved to Australia. Oh, wow. Hey, Ping! Welcome to the stream! What is this? And the look was so funny. It was like she found a part of the internet that only whispered of in dark rooms. Well, it wasn't NSFW or anything. It was just, you know, I'm not very familiar with car things, you know. If it hasn't gone wrong with my own vehicle, then I don't know anything about it. And cars are very overwhelming for me. Especially the modern ones that have like all of the electrical components. I'm just like, someone else can deal with that. All right, I need to move the camera so we can go back over to the press. But yeah, I know, it's always better to have stock that is the correct shape to start with, or have a faster moving tool to bring down the dimensions. Unfortunately, I only have, you know, the one press, and that's my heavy machinery in this shop. One of these days, though, we're gonna get ourselves a power hammer. Or a better press. Or maybe I'll scrap together the cash to get one of Christ Center's Helvhammer, like the foot-powered ones. Or just build your own foundry and have your own molds and start with, you know, the simple accessories, right? See, that would be perfect. Except for I would have to be able to temper the alloys, you know, that I'm using. Got a heavy block of steel for a striking anvil, and the butler can practice striking, right? I'm sure the butler would have fun with that. I told the butler that you guys said that they should start striking for me, and they were like, I am terrified that I will strike you. And I was like, I won't lie, I'm a little bit terrified that you would hit me too, because the butler is not amazingly coordinated when it comes to hand-eye. Yeah. The CCI treadle hammer is pretty darn good. Worth the money, especially with the Air Assist heavy hammer upgrades. Yeah, I was just looking at that because one of Roy's shorts came up on my feed advertising it, and I was like, that's kind of neat. Gotta give them a target to aim for, right? Okay, I'm gonna do another heat at the press. So he's not the guy you want on the hammer when driving railroad spikes. I can't believe people used to do that. Just crazy. See, when I interviewed Noah Hickman, he said that if you want to learn to strike better, you just got to do it. You know? And that's so totally true. You just got to practice a lot. I'm dropping things. Dropsy. I still owe you guys a dropping compilation. And long-handled top tools and tongs, right? Definitely. Have you seen my short test out the hammer with the drawing dies on the horseshoe? I haven't yet. I've been looking through some of the stuff that on your channel, but I haven't made it through everything. I saw that you posted on TikTok, I think they were dingoes? That's kind of cool. Yeah, when I heard the meme a dingo ate your baby, I thought that it was more like a coyote or something. Oh, wallabies. Maybe the dingoes are more like coyotes. It's a wallaby, okay. I got things mixed up. You know, if it's not a kangaroo, then I'm just like, I'm not familiar with Australian animals, I think. Dingoes are basically coyotes. Okay. Do you have to deal with those? It looked like you were pretty far out. Far out in the boonies. But I mean, that's probably good if you are a blacksmith, you don't want to be a blacksmith in the middle of the city if you can help it. It's possible, it's just harder, you got all those neighborhood associations and like people who are like, they look at you and they think that they have some kind of jurisdiction over what you can and can't do. When we bought this house, that was one of the main things that we were looking for in a house is like no neighborhood associations. It's really hard to find a house without neighborhood associations in the United States these days. Everybody wants to retain the value of their home by dictating what homes can look like. But we found this place and we've got lots of land and no homeowners association. A wallaby is a type of roo, but they're smaller. And yeah, we're about an hour out bush from Darwin. Have seen one dingo so far walking down the drive. I will say that the further out you are in Australia, they always say, you know, everything wants to eat you in Australia, so I would be a little bit afraid. That's why you move somewhere that there are no neighbors. Like where I live. Awesome. I wish my neighbor had an HOA, but not for me. See, you have to be able, or you have to allow your neighbors to do what they want if you don't want them to tell you what to do. So, you know, there's good things and bad things about HOAs. Every bit of value that's saved by an HOA is eaten by the dues, right? Man, some of those HOAs, they're like hundreds of dollars a month, you know? Crazy. All right, let's do another heat. But yeah, I tried very hard to find a place that did not have an HOA. A little bit more patient. We'll get a lot more movement if I allow the stock to heat up a little bit better. But we're also fighting frozen tanks of propane. The way I see it, if I can see another house from my house, I'm too close. Granted, the house I gave my kid was in town, but basically bought it for her anyway. I mean, I like to be able to go to the store really quickly, but it is one of my dreams to have a piece of land out in the middle of nowhere, where I can't see anyone else's house. I want woods, you know? I want to be able to run around and hike and bird watch and things like that on my own property. I missed one of you guys. What did I miss? True, his yard is pretty much a breeding ground for rodents, though. I've never once seen him in 5.5 years I've lived in my house. Oh, wow. That's kind of gross. As long as the rodents don't move over to your house, right? That's one of the bad things about apartments, right? If your neighbor in the apartment gets roaches, you're definitely getting roaches. So annoying, you know? I am lucky because, you know, I was able to buy a house. But, you know, I have lived in apartments before and it's not cool. You know, one time I went to visit my parents' house and I left my apartment, and when I came back, somebody had left their bathtub on and left, and like my entire apartment flooded. It was awful. I see his light on sometimes, but his yard is a jungle. We get a lot of mice probably from his yard. Yeah, mice really love to come inside and they love living in really tall grass in areas that, you know, are unkempt. I used to get a lot of mice in this house, but my cat always caught them, so they kind of get chased away. I think my main issue with vermin these days are stink bugs and ants. I don't understand why all bathtubs are not required to have an overflow drain, right? Especially in an apartment. All right, I am out of water. Out of water. But I didn't actually fill any other water. And I'm out of Gatorade. So I either have to go and refill my water or grab a soda. I should probably refill my water. I will be right back, guys. All right. Let me look in the fridge first. Do I have anything good in the fridge? No. Not anything good for me, at least. Oh, there's one. It's kind of on the warm side, though. It's all right. I'll just drink this. The butler left a bottle of water on the counter, and I'm gonna drink it. Raise hydration struggle bus, yes. But yeah, the butler left a bottle of water on the counter, so I'm gonna drink it. Not the best water I've ever tasted. But it'll do. It's liquid, right? Okay, let me check the camera. I'm pretty sure that it hasn't been that long at all. Okay, we're good. And how hot? Let's shake up the container again. It's like there's enough in there that it shouldn't freeze, but it is because it's so cold outside. I always have to fight when it starts getting colder in like the winter time. We've got half a tank of propane and it's frozen. I definitely do not have another tank that will not almost immediately freeze. So hopefully it holds out and, you know, it keeps getting hot. Oh, I went to grab my water and it's like, I left it over there because the bottom is all like jankety on this. For whatever reason, this water does not have a flat bottom. It's all like sideways and stuff. Jam a bunch of hand warmers around it with some duct tape. I still need to get a bucket of water so that, because the water will make it harder for the tank to freeze. But I haven't done it yet. I keep telling myself I'm gonna, but I need to buy a bucket big enough to stick it in. All right, let's do another heat. For half a second, I thought I accidentally closed the door, but that was the door to the house that I closed. We're almost at a point where I can, where I should be able to raise the bottom die up and we'll get a lot more force. If you have a Tractor Supply or similar store, they should have some feeder water buckets that would be about the right size. Yeah, a feed tub is the right size, or a laundry tub. Yeah, there are some really nice, like, steel tubs that are for feeding animals, or maybe not feeding, but like, you know, watering animals, and that would be really, really good. The other thing that would be really cool to have is there are, you occasionally in this area you can buy empty wine casks or, you know, whiskey casks, and if you cut them in half, they make really good buckets for, like quench buckets, as well as water for, you know, the propane tanks. Yeah, those do work so well. The Metals Museum always uses wine casks from like parties that they do, because they have on their like river campus, they have a wedding venue, or they do weddings there, and so they keep the wine casks and they cut them in half, and that's how they get their quench buckets. They're amazing. It works so well. You know, I always use cat litter buckets, because we always get cat litter buckets for, you know, because I have a cat. But if I'm not careful, I melt them, and then the water just comes spilling out of them. Wine cask sounds bougie, right? But yeah, they're like big old barrels, like, you know, you see in westerns, where, you know, they have like the water barrel or whatever, or, you know, beer. You know, they're just like giant Cooper barrels, and they work beautifully, as long as they are still watertight. You know, sometimes if they're too old or too loose, they aren't watertight anymore. Like the Hobbit, ride the barrels down the river. Exactly like those. I feel like there aren't very many Coopers around that like will make the wooden barrels like for just normal use, but you know, you can find them with like whiskeys and alcohols of all types and stuff like that. I was upsetting a mild steel bar for a hearty shank, and I quenched the end I was holding onto into the snow. See, that works too, you know? Snow is just solid-ish water, right? I've seen a lot of people, or I've seen a few people who like, they'll quench swords in snow, and ordinarily I'd say that's not an amazing idea, because a lot of sword steel is oil quench, so, you know, you get cracks, or you risk getting cracks, but it is cool to look at, you know? You saw Alex Steele's Cooper video recently. I haven't watched it yet, but it's come across my For You. It's on my to be watched list. I just haven't had time to sit down and look at it, you know? But I want to. I've been trying to set up some outings similar to that. I haven't actually, like, you know, gone with the corporation, the business route, but I do have a few feelers out there to find some shops to go and visit. So I'm hoping that we can visit them, because there aren't very many blacksmithing things in certain times of the year. So like, there are more in the fall and spring than in the summer and winter. There's a couple in the winter, but there's hardly any in the summer. So if I can get some shops or businesses to allow me to tour there, then we'll have some filler. I just checked out my Twitch recap for the year. There's no way I've logged 34 hours watching Finn, but only 11 on Ray. I swear I'm here like 6 hours a week. See, you know, I mean, I definitely appreciate all 6 hours or, you know, all 11 hours that you have watched, you know? It's just, you know, you gotta push that number higher, right? Yeah, so like I said, I was super excited to see that we are within the top 10% of makers and crafters category. That's super exciting to me. We've only been streaming for about a year and we've grown quite a bit from that very, you know, modest beginning of like 3 viewers that would come in and out, you know? I think it also helped when I was able to start interacting with you guys, you know? When I first started, I was using a phone and I couldn't see anybody's comments. I'm glad I upgraded to the point where I can see you guys' comments. It's fun talking to you guys. All right, let's do another heat. Ooh, we're kind of on the cold side. It's still a little on the orange side. We're gonna go a little bit longer, I think. Apologies. I'm glad you had a reason to upgrade, right? I mean, if it wasn't for Yankee and Kiri, you know, I wouldn't have had a reason to upgrade, you know? Like I said, when I first started, before you guys showed up, I had like 1 or 2 people that would trickle in and out. Like, I did see, you know, Dirty Smith came and followed pretty early in my streaming career, but like, you know, like I said, there was only about 3 until Yankee came and boosted me up by rating. Channel growth is great. It is. I'm super excited. And I'm super excited for next year to see how far we will come, you know, in another year. You know, we'll be 2 years at that point. It'd be nice to have over 1,000. That's gonna be my goal, right? 1,000. I think that's reasonable. We got 434 followers this year, so maybe, you know, next year we'll be able to get 1,000. And then we become friends, and it all went downhill from there. I was there for that Yankee Axe raid. Yes, you were. You were one of the first people that kind of explained Twitch to me, you know? Explaining how moderators work and things like that. I am so grateful for you, Ping, because I was so confused. Corwin says, just kidding. I don't know. I don't know. I might be, you know, the evil twin, right? All right, we got a little bit more heat. So let's see about doing another heat. This will be our last on this camera, or on this clip, I guess. Not this camera, this clip. Of course. Dang it. Goodness gracious. my lever and I missed. Flung it halfway across the shop. 1,000 followers might be good. Viewers at a time is a bit much, but there is a point when watching Twitch stream becomes similar to watching YouTube videos because the chance of chat messages being read becomes smaller and smaller. Yeah, there is no way I will reach 1,000 like active viewers during a live stream. I want to hit partners at some point, and the goal for partner is 75 viewers concurrently. But I think that's about as big as I want to ever get. I think it'd be really hard to interact with people, you know? Once upon a time, a video of Ray's was the top of the recommended list on YouTube, and I clicked on it and went down the rabbit hole. I mean, YouTube has helped me grow quite a bit, you know? It helped a lot by when I started uploading my VODs over to YouTube and my shorts, and then I really enjoy doing the edits for our long form content. They aren't really long. I mean, they're like between 3 and 7 minutes, but I think condensing the streams down to something more bite-sized and watchable was a really good move for the channel. I would say you could get up to 200 viewers and still keep up, but about 85 to 90% of viewers don't chat anyway usually. I mean, that's also true. You know, as long as I can keep up with chat, that would make me happy. You know, I know that there's some really big streamers out there and they just sort of pick and choose some comments to talk about or, you know, to respond to, but I really enjoy the back and forth that we have here. I really want things to be a little bit, you know, more intimate so that I can actually like answer questions and things like that. I don't want to miss questions. And if we ever get like really active chat, feel free to repost questions or, you know, things that you want me to see if I can't see them. You know, if I haven't responded yet, repost, you know. I was rated in by Kiri. Yes, like I said, without Yankee and Kiri, I would still be like streaming to no one. I am super grateful to both of them for the help and the push. I would not be where I am without them. There is always slow mode too. Yes, and you know, if we do get super big, I might put on slow mode, you know. Roy averages about 80 people in the stream, unless a giveaway is in the stream title. But then it's 200 or 300. Yeah, I can imagine, you know. Everybody wants a little bit of something. I have at some point, or I have a couple times debated whether I wanted to do like giveaways or, you know, like raffles type things. But I haven't actually done it yet because I don't feel like any of my pieces are good enough yet. I feel like I would want to give away something that I made on stream, but I want it to look really nice. And a lot of the stuff that I make is, I kind of rush it, or you know, it's the first time I've ever done it. You know, one of these days I'll do something really nice and I'll try and give that away. But yeah, I don't necessarily want to get huge, but it would be nice to, you know, get big enough for corporate sponsorships. Like I said, that's kind of my goal. But I also feel like YouTube is where I want those corporate sponsors. So those of you who are watching both Twitch and YouTube, I am super grateful. Those of you who only watch YouTube, also super grateful. I am approaching, I think, 750 subscribers on YouTube. So I'm waiting until I get 1,000, and then I also have like a duration that I have to meet in order to monetize over there. We're getting there though. I'm super happy with our growth there. My 100 subscriber giveaway was a set of cable Damascus dice. Easy to do, and a former friend won them even. That's cool. Cable Damascus dice sounds like fun. I'm not amazingly confident with my ability to forge weld though. I did an entire stream where we did nothing but attempt to forge weld. I got 3 done. I want to do a couple more streams like that, but since it's getting really cold, I think that we're SOL until the spring when it starts getting warmer again. But there are always 60, 70 degree days every month here in this area. And so, you know, if the stars align and it's warm enough and I have a butler around, we might just, you know, have a surprise forge welding stream. Or if I figure out how to get a good hood for ventilation for like over there, that's where I usually store my forge. It'd be nice if I could find a hood. But if I can, you know, you might find a forge weld stream in the future. All right, let's do another heat. Alright, so I think our next heat is going to be on the anvil. I need to flatten out and straighten out some of these corners. We've got a lot of like weird angles going on. So we are going to take a little bit of time to fix that. Watch Roy's video, Forge Welding and Ice Anvil. It's neat. They spent like, it didn't hit the button. There it went. They spent like $400 to have that anvil made, and the video flopped. The point with preheating an anvil was a pointless endeavor, right? Because I feel like an anvil has a tendency to heat as you're forging. An ice anvil, wow. So I've heard many creators say that the videos that they spend the most time, effort, and money on are always the ones that flop. And the ones that they don't think are gonna do well are the ones that blow up. That kind of sounds like, you know, that adage exemplified, you know? But I mean, I actually spent like super amounts of effort designing our raised smithy sign. And when I posted those videos up on YouTube, they got like hardly any views at all. less than 100, and I was super disappointed. I think they've gotten a few more lately, but they never took off. And I mean, I thought that was like a neat video series. And then I like on TikTok, I have a video, like a short of just us riveting together a pair of tongs, like these tongs. And that video has 50,000 views. It's crazy. And I mean, I don't understand why this video would have gotten 50,000 views, but it did. So we have an ad that's going to start in about 2 minutes and 40 seconds or so. Oh, I'm going to move our camera over to the anvil. And once that ad is over, I should be hot enough to do our first heat on the anvil. Yeah, I kind of feel like when you aren't touching the surface of the anvil as much, you end up retaining a lot more heat in your material. And that's why people are constantly telling me that I should forge over the corner of the anvil. You know, you get that you retain that heat when you're drawing out the material. It's all about how the algorithm latches on. Isn't that the truth? And there's no predicting the algorithm. I don't understand it. I never will. I try not to chase the algorithm, but it's like there's a part of me that wants to treat content creation like I treat video games. You know, there's always a mathematical formula to get the best DPS or the best tanking or the best heals. And I feel like there should be one for the algorithm, but there's not. It changes. Every time someone figures it out, it changes. But I mean, we're growing anyway. The algorithm is giving us people, so that's all that really matters to me, is like that we continue to be growing and moving forward. That's my goal. The ad timer, the fact that there's a timer on the ads and it's like it just starts counting down, and then I feel like I need to stop, you know, doing important stuff. But then I also feel like I always stop doing important stuff too early, and then I'm just sitting here just like yammering on about the ads. It's like I have to be early to everything, right? So if you tell me I need to be somewhere at a certain time, I'm always there like 15 minutes early. And because I want to get there 15 minutes early, then I have to leave like 30 minutes early. And then because I want to leave 30 minutes early, I have to be getting ready 30 minutes before that. And so then I just waste all of this time when I could just jump in the car and, you know, get wherever I need to go without having to like worry about it. And I feel like that's what the ads are like for me. It kind of stresses me out. I always hated afternoon shifts when I was like working in retail. You know, I don't mind getting up and immediately going into work. It's the whole anticipation of waiting until my afternoon shift. Looks like we are on an ad break now, so yay, all that waiting wasn't for nothing, right? So we're getting a decent amount of work in today. Not too bad. We are getting some wonky angles that we need to fix up, and I'm hoping to do that here on the anvil face over the next couple of heats. But you know, we're at our 2-hour mark, so the next 30 minutes hopefully we'll get a good amount of work in. I hate second shift. Yes, it's like you can't do anything because I'm always paranoid that I have to go to work, so I watch the clock. Right? That's exactly what I mean. You know, I'm constantly watching the clock. Like, you know, when before I was doing blacksmithing, I was gaming and I was like, oh, well, I can game until X time. And then one time I lost track of time and ended up being late to work. And after that, never again. I have always been like super obsessive about being on time and, you know, watching the clock on days where I have afternoon shifts. So upsetting. I also kind of have time blindness a little bit. So I have ADHD, and so like I lose track of time really, really easily, right? And so I think there was only like one job, and I've had like 14 different jobs where I haven't been like an hour early or an hour late to work at some point because I can't read like a clock properly. Paranoid android. I'm ex-military. For me, on time is 5 or 15 minutes early. Yes, I want to be everywhere I go 15 minutes early. And if I want to be fashionably late, I have to plan on it, you know? I have to be like, okay, instead of coming on time, my on time is now 30 minutes late. And so then I'm 15 minutes late, right? Because I have to be 15 minutes early everywhere I go. Welcome in, Bluesy. Hey, Jack. You think you'll be making some more hammers and axe-shaped tooling in the near term? I will be making. Well, this is a raising hammer. I'm going to continue using the drifts and the punches that I have. If I do another axe, I will probably buy a drift for that because the drift that I have is not good. So you intend to stream at 1:45, so you start at 1:30. Well, I come out here 15 minutes early and I'm just like standing around. But I am planning on doing some more hammers and some more tools lately, or not lately, but like recently. In the near future. I will probably do a chasing hammer at some point within the next few months. But I'm looking into doing some more jeweler's tools throughout this winter. Because I want to do some silversmithing. For some time I had some private appointment on Sunday evenings. I hated it because all Sunday long there was somewhere I had to be, right? There are cultures where on time or early is considered rude. I don't think I could function in those cultures. Well, I think I could adapt if I was living in those cultures, but it would take some doing to do it, you know? All right. I'm going to do another heat here on the anvil face. Yeah, I need a different hammer drift and a different axe drift, I think. The ones I have, I made them and they were okay for what they were. But they're not the right size, you know? Put this like so, or I'm going to attempt to put this like so that I can pick it up this direction. Alrighty, back in the heat. I use a sneaky thing. Northern Tool used to sell an iron ton broadhead bullpen for cheap. It is medium carbon and has worked very well. It held up very well for me. And it was under 20 bucks. That's cool. I do have a Northern Tool that's near me. I think that I'll probably, if I want to do another axe, I'll probably go and see what I can find. I'm always early. I can't stand to be late. I'd rather not even show up. Right? Northern Tool has some good stuff. They do. Like, when I went to go and last winter, our press jack broke, and Mahalo donated the money to buy a new one. So I went to Northern Tool first to see if I couldn't find a bottle jack that would work. But unfortunately, they didn't have any pneumatic ones in stock. So I ended up having to order one. And we got it in, and I replaced the bottle jack, and the press has worked beautifully ever since. It goes from 1 1/4 down to 5/16. It's used for placing I-beams. Okay, that makes sense. And the 1 1/4 down to 5/16 would be really, really convenient. Yeah. Definitely. Now, I feel like I need a much, much bigger thing than that for axes, though, because didn't Yankee tell me that axes are like almost 2 inches wide? I think it was like 2 1/4, he said. So I need to get something specifically for an axe if I'm going to do another one. Because, yeah, I would like to be able to handle them properly. This weekend I will be handling the axe that we made, though. I'll probably have to modify a handle for it, because I'm gonna I'm gonna edit the axe video, and I need the handle on it so we can chop some wood for the video. If you're doing full-side axes, then it's its own set of drifts and punches. Yes, it definitely is. I think like I said, if I do another axe, like a full-size one, I will probably end up like buying a drift, because I mean, you can buy axe drifts from a few of the blacksmith suppliers. I don't trust myself to be able to make them to the precise exact dimensions, so I'll probably buy something. And if I don't buy it from, or like order it from a blacksmith supply, I'll probably buy one at a show somewhere. But for its price, I've never found anything else close. Yeah, I will definitely look into that, you know. All right, let's do another heat. This one, I want to have a smaller eye, so I'm not terribly worried about it. All right, now we need to get these corners. Because the whole darn thing is cockeyed. All right. More heat, more heat. We're getting there. It's definitely not the circle we started with. Will it be an Eye of Sauron? Defeat the fish. I will try to defeat the fish. It's not that big of a fish at this point, but it could be soon, so I'm trying to fix that as we go. Will it be an Eye of Sauron? I don't know. Probably not, because I don't really want it to be burny, because if the hole is like flaming, then it will burn up my handle. Oh, come on, you can last for like 20 more minutes. So I do actually have a hard out today. Unfortunately, I cannot go beyond our 2.5 hours today. Mostly because our sound is going to die very shortly. I am currently in the process of charging the receiver, but I forgot to charge it over the week, or between Monday and Wednesday, and so my sound is gonna die soon. Fiery evil and you will know. Yes. Rip noise. The rest of the stream sponsored by Interpretive Dance. Exactly. I do have enough to last the last, like, 10-15 minutes or so that the stream is. I have to stop when the stream ends, because at that point I have no idea how long or how much longer it will last. So yeah, it'll be like intermittent, right? So I think I can do at least, I don't know, I think I'll try 2 heats in that time. Hopefully I will have sound by the end, but yeah, I think I'm gonna do 2 more heats. If you guys have anyone specific that you'd like to raid off to, I always take suggestions, and yeah. Okay, I won't try to invoke a raid. Corwin and your raid dancing. Is that like a rain dance, but like a raid dance? That's what we need. We need a raid dance emote, right? Then we could be like dance or something. Maybe it could be the twist. Raid dance. With less coordination, right? Yes. We could do that as an emote, I'm sure. All right, let's do another heat. 1 out of the last 2. Focusing on getting rid of fish lips and re-squaring our corners. I guess we're not re-squaring our corners because we never really had corners to begin with. Since, we started with a round piece of stock. All right, we're getting there. More heat. Come on, everybody, let's do the twist. Or are you more a twist and shout girl? Twist and shout. I don't know. It's like, shout for me is like laundry detergent, right? There's shout laundry detergent, but then, it's twist and shout. There's that song too. But that always reminds me of the shout laundry detergent commercial. Because back in the 90s, they used to have a commercial that did the twist and shout song inside of it. So we've got one more heat left, and then we're gonna raid off for the day. So on Friday, for that stream, we are going to continue processing this stock. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get to the point where we get a nice, longer, thinned piece of stock, something that's like more, or has a more square profile to it. And then we will start punching in the eye. So I've got to do a little bit of work because the last hammer that we did, I got it stuck that one time. I don't remember I don't know if you guys remember, but I got the punch stuck inside the hammer eye, and so there's a couple dings from me trying to get that punch out. So I need to clean this up a little bit more, and then we'll use it to punch in the hole. It's clear you never were a twist, or you never really were a twister. Yeah, I mean, we learned to do the twist in gym class when we were learning line dancing and square dancing, but we spent way more time on square dancing than we did line dancing, and we spent more time line dancing than on the twist and like swing. We only really did like one or 2 days of swing dancing, and the twist was part of that. It happened a few times, if I recall correctly. Yes, it did. So I've got to clean it up a little bit. There's some dings and nicks in there for me attempting to get it out. But we will be using the punch, and I will be bringing back the coal lubricant that we were using when we did the axe. So it should go pretty easily and smoothly, or fingers crossed. Hopefully we'll get a good hammer. Alrighty. Last heat of the day. There we go. As I drop the piece. That's the best. Always the best. It hit my boot when it fell. Alrighty. There we have it. That's where we are today. A little bit more working that we'll need. I want to thin it out, maybe probably a 1/2 inch thinner, and take that width and make it length. And then we will start working on the hole. Did your boot scoot? Well, I got a little bit of a burn here on my pant leg. New boot goofing, right? But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I have had a blast, and I hope you guys have. Like I said, we will be continuing to work on this hammer for the next several streams, and I hope to see you on Friday. Hope you have a great evening. You guys too. Thank you, Corwin. Thank you, Ping. All right, we are going to raid JK. Looks like some lathing. Nicely done. See you later. Thank you, Mahalo. All right. Have a wonderful evening. See See you next time, Lexi. Bye, guys.